Dearest listener, can you hear me all right? If my voice is reaching you clearly, then what an absolute pleasure it is to meet you. Right now, it's precisely afternoon on a most delightful spring day. As I sit here, gazing at the soft golden glow of sunlight gently dancing upon the buildings before me, I am recording the very first educational video for the IntlLaw Academy. My name is Banu, and I'm truly honoured to be your very first guide and instructor here at the Academy. I must confess I am no spring chicken anymore, rather an old woman with many years behind me, but there is one thing inside me that remains ever young: my love for international law, my passion for teaching, and, from this very moment, my fondness for you, who kindly lend me your ear. Together we are about to embark upon quite the journey. Perhaps we shan't meet face to face, but know this: we shall walk side by side, exploring the wondrous and often mysterious world of international law. We shall delve into its many layers, listen to the stories it holds dear, and celebrate the remarkable feats made possible by the devoted scholars and practitioners who have laboured over it. This, my dear, is the very reason the IntlLaw Academy was founded. My esteemed colleagues and I are here to shepherd you along this path, ever steadfast companions on your adventure. And you, yes you, my dear, if international law tickles your curiosity even just a little, I warmly invite you to take my hand and become a fellow traveller. Now, this is our very first session, so I won't tire you out by going on endlessly about who I am or what I do. You'll get to know me better as we move along together. And if you'd like, I'd love to get to know you too. Feel free to leave me a comment, share your thoughts, ask your questions, or offer your gentle critiques, my dear. I welcome it all with an open heart, and I shall always be here for you for as long as you want me to be. Now that I've said all this, let's take a deep breath together. If you feel like it, do pause this video, go make yourself a lovely warm drink, perhaps a comforting cup of tea, and come back when you're ready so we can continue our conversation. Today, we take the very first steps of our journey. You see, my dear, Banu here is an old-timer in the field of international law, and those of us who've been around a while usually know how to tell a good story. I, for one, absolutely adore storytelling. That's why my teaching style is mostly like this. I tell you a story, you listen, and before you even realise, you've stepped right into the philosophical world of international law. My area of expertise is the history and the philosophy of international law. Most of the videos I create for you are stories about the deeper ideas and evolution behind this field. Stories about how international law came to be what it is today. Whether you're familiar with international law or just beginning your journey, I believe it's helpful to start by acquainting yourself with some of the key terms in this fascinating field, dear. So, in today's video, I've prepared a beginner-friendly list of the most important international law terms, and we shall go through them together. In a way, my dear, I'm helping prepare your mind so you're ready to enter these stories with me. Every story has its characters, its roles, and you simply must get to know them. And this beautiful field we call international law is made up of quite the cast of characters. International law, my dear, is uniquely and deeply connected to what we call the international community. The international community is a cooperative society built on solidarity and shared interests. It exists within a shared geographical space, our Mother Earth, made up of different and diverse social units that are all in principle equal in rights. So the very first thing you need to come familiar with is this concept of the international community. Alongside the international community, we have international institutions. These are the rules and bodies that govern the relationships among the members of that community. You might be wondering, who exactly are the members of the international community? Well, now, my dear, in this wondrous tale of international law, we often speak of its main characters, and we call them the subjects of international law. Some of these subjects are active ones, full participants on the world stage. Think of states with their flags and borders, or international organisations like the United Nations bustling with diplomacy and dialogue. But others, sweet one, are passive subjects. What does that mean? It means that while they may not always shape the rules, they are still protected by them. They are the rightful recipients of international legal rights. Who are they, you ask? Well, sometimes they're states with special statuses, such as protected states or those under mandates or in other unique arrangements where sovereignty is shaped by circumstance. And then, my dear, there are peoples, entire communities, who hold the sacred right of self-determination, both within their borders and in relation to the wider world. They have the right to decide their future, their government, their very identity, and that right is enshrined in the heart of international law. We also have governments in exile, patiently waiting for the day they can return to lead their people once more. And let us not forget the brave national liberation movements who rise in pursuit of freedom, dignity, and recognition. So, you see, darling, the subjects of international law come in many forms, some powerful and sovereign, others still finding their place, but each one is part of this vast, unfolding human story. Our discipline, at its heart, regulates both friendly and hostile relations between these subjects. You may be wondering, what exactly are these relations? No? Well then, let's unpack that together slowly, like unwrapping a delicate parcel filled with meaning. Friendly relations are those warm exchanges where cooperation and mutual respect bloom. For example, dear, trade agreements between states, like when two countries agree on tariffs, imports, and exports to strengthen their economies. Cultural treaties, where states share art, music, and heritage, deepening their understanding of each other. Or scientific collaboration, say, in climate research or pandemic response, working together for the common good. But alas, the world is not always kind and gentle. There are also hostile relations where tension or even conflict rises between members of the international community. In these moments, international law still plays its part, striving to bring structure and humanity to the chaos. It governs armed conflict through the Geneva Conventions, ensuring protection for civilians, the wounded, and prisoners of war. It regulates sanctions and diplomatic responses to violations of peace. It oversees war crimes tribunals, my dear, holding even the most powerful accountable. So you see, whether it is peace or conflict, celebration or sorrow, international law is there like a quiet guardian, guiding how subjects of law must behave toward one another. It does not promise perfection, but it offers a path. Now listen closely, my dear. International law, just like any well-told tale, relies on both primary and secondary sources to guide its path. These aren't random notions plucked from thin air, no. They are clearly laid out in Article 38 of the Statute of the International Court of Justice, the very beating heart of legal reference in our field. So what are these sources, you ask? Well, first, we have international conventions, treaties, whether broad or specific, binding agreements between members of the international community. Then we have international custom, those unwritten practices followed over time, accepted as law. Next come the general principles of law, drawn from the common legal traditions of the world's nations. We also look to judicial decisions and the teachings of the most esteemed scholars, those brilliant minds who have helped shape and explain international law over the years. But that's not the whole story, darling. No. There are other sources too, even if they aren't mentioned explicitly in Article 38. For example, the principle of equity, which adds a touch of fairness and moral reasoning to our legal dealings. We also consider unilateral acts when a state declares something on its own, yet the statement carries legal weight. Then there are informal agreements, which, while not formal treaties, still hold importance between states. And of course, we cannot forget one of the most powerful concepts in international law, jus cogens or peremptory norms. These are rules so fundamental, so universally accepted, that no agreement or action can override them. They are the red lines, the immovable pillars of our shared global values. So you see, my dear, international law doesn't float aimlessly. It is anchored in deep waters, guided by trusted sources and shaped by the wisdom of ages. All right. The realm of international law is rather like a great woven tapestry. Sometimes its threads stretch far and wide, quite general, touching upon the relations of all the members of the international community, weaving their stories together in one shared legal fabric. For instance, the United Nations Charter applies to all member states, setting out the broad principles of sovereign equality, the prohibition of the use of force, and the duty to settle disputes peacefully. And at other times, dear, the threads gather more closely, becoming special, tailored to specific groups within that community, addressing their unique needs, circumstances, or histories. Take, for example, international humanitarian law, which specifically governs armed conflict and protects civilians, prisoners of war, and others not participating in hostilities. Or consider treaties concerning indigenous peoples or agreements on the status of refugees. These apply not to all states or groups, but to those involved in particular human experiences, needing particular care and recognition. It's a bit like a great orchestra, my darling. Sometimes all the instruments play in harmony, and sometimes a solo rises, delicate and distinct, but each one belongs to the same symphony of international law. As we journey further, we'll get to know all of that more closely. Today's not the time for too much detail, but do not worry, you'll become more familiar with these concepts bit by bit. And as we journey forward, my dear, you won't be hearing only from me. In time, my esteemed colleagues will join us too, each one bringing their own wisdom and guiding you through different aspects of this vast and wondrous field. Okay then, where was I? The formation of international law. Now that is quite the tale, my dear. You see, international law did not come into being overnight. No, it was not the result of a single grand declaration or a solitary stroke of genius. Rather, it blossomed gradually over centuries as human civilization itself evolved. From the ancient empires of Mesopotamia and the customs of indigenous communities to the diplomatic exchanges of the Renaissance and the great peace treaties of modernity, every chapter added a thread to the great tapestry of rules that govern relations among nations. And no one civilization, no single people, can lay exclusive claim to its origins. Instead, like a garden tended by many hands, international law has been cultivated by diverse cultures, ideas, and traditions across the globe. It is the product of our shared human experience, our common struggles, our mutual needs, our collective desire to live with dignity and peace. So when we speak of the formation of international law, dear heart, we speak of a journey, one walked by countless feet, driven by hope, shaped by time, and still unfolding with each new generation. In truth, the global community is an interdependent body of members. It is our shared material needs and common ideals that laid the foundations for international law. Yes, my dear, the international community is made up of distinct elements that have come together through mutual needs and cooperative efforts. But you should know, not everyone agrees on whether international law is really law at all. Some thinkers, like John Austin, completely rejected the very existence of international law. Philosophers like Hegel denied any authority above the state. Many others have voiced similar doubts, my dear. But the reality is this. International law does exist. Its enforcement mechanisms are quite different from those of private or domestic law, mainly because there's no central international executive to enforce the rules. True, international law lacks a fully comprehensive set of rules, but none of these limitations can take away from its beautiful reality. We have effective tools and mechanisms to help enforce it. These include legal sanctions such as criminal, civil, economic, consular, and diplomatic, as well as countermeasures. And beyond the legal realm, we also rely on non-legal mechanisms, like moral pressure, political accountability, public opinion, shared interests, mutual benefits, and the universal wish to avoid conflict. One important thing for you to understand, my dear, is this. Enforcement doesn't define a legal rule, but it helps ensure its effectiveness. So yes, international law does exist, and it truly has impact. And over time, you'll come to understand this more and more deeply, okay? This field is constantly growing and evolving. There are many different factors behind this process. Some are legal, like the actions of states, international organizations, and individuals. Others are non-legal, like history, geography, sociology, political science, economics, culture, and more. Whether legal or non-legal, they all play a part in the codification and progressive development of international law. You might be wondering what exactly codification and development mean, my dear. Such wonderful questions. Codification means taking the unwritten or customary rules of international law and turning them into written rules. In other words, it's about organising and formalising long-standing principles that have grown from consistent practice into structured legal norms. Development, on the other hand, means creating new legal rules or reaffirming existing ones by building upon older principles. According to Article 15 of the Statute of the International Law Commission, these two pillars, codification and development, are what breathe life into our field. If you're not familiar with the International Law Commission yet, let me tell you a little about it. The ILC was established in 1947 by the United Nations General Assembly. It's made up of 34 international legal experts elected for 5-year terms who bear the important task of codifying and progressively developing international law. They work to bring structure, clarity, and vitality to our discipline. Sometimes their role goes beyond routine work, venturing into what we call the progressive development of international law. This happens when they draft legal frameworks on new or unsettled issues that haven't been fully regulated or widely accepted by the international community. You see, my dear? Our field is vibrant and ever-evolving. But before anything else, the most important thing for you to understand is where our discipline comes from, its origins, history, and the many perspectives that have shaped it. How did international law come to be? What efforts were made to create it? What journey have we travelled to bring us to the international law we know today? In essence, international law is a branch of law that, with its own primary and secondary sources, regulates both friendly and hostile relations among the members of a society called the international community. This community is built on cooperation, solidarity, and shared interests. Its mutual needs and common ideals require a regulatory framework, international law, that applies both broadly and specifically. International law is alive, effective, and real. It has both legal and non-legal enforcement mechanisms and is constantly developing, evolving, and becoming more refined every day. Over time, my dear, you'll get to know the international community better, its members, the subjects of international law, the various relationships among them, and how international law governs those relations. But before that, Banu is here to share with you the story of how international law was born, along with the many perspectives on its beautiful existence. If I've sparked even the tiniest curiosity in you, dear, and encouraged you to listen more to what I have to say, then now is a fine time to hit that subscribe button. Join the IntlLaw Academy and stay tuned for our upcoming videos. Take care of yourself, my dear. I do hope to see you again very soon. Until then, keep that warm cup close and that curious mind open.